Schedule III Cannabis a win or a scam? One day soon, Trump will be bragging. Actually, he's always bragging, but this time he'll be telling you his move to reschedule cannabis is a historic victory, unless he says an historic victory, and that Biden couldn't do it. So, you've got the other side, the alarmists, screaming that it's all a huge trap laid out by Big Pharma. And what are they doing? They're both just selling you a story. What if this whole thing is only a masterclass in political grandstanding? Trump's 80-20 rule, a little sleight of hand to make you think something's happening, while fundamentally the biggest problems remain untouched. We are going to break down what's really going on with this whole Schedule I to Schedule III shuffle for marijuana, for the good herb. We'll look at what it actually means for you and why the real fight, the one for actual cannabis freedom, that's only getting started. I'm Tom, a cannabis lawyer, here with it all. Like this video and leave a comment on your ideas about if Schedule III is good or bad. Let's dig into it. Starting with the historical win narrative. The federal government has had cannabis in headlock called Schedule I. Think of Schedule I as maximum security prison for substances. It's the category for the worst of the worst. The drugs with no currently accepted medical use and a high potential for abuse. It's where heroin lives. That means that the feds officially think cannabis is more dangerous than ketamine or cocaine, which are lower scheduled drugs. It's a classification that's scientifically, let's be honest, absurd, and actually it's scientifically dishonest to have it in Schedule I. So when the Biden administration announced they were going to follow a recommendation for HHS to move cannabis to Schedule III, like 2 weeks before the 2022 midterm elections, of course, the Democrats couldn't wait to slap themselves on the back. A monumental step, historic. The end of prohibition is coming, and they were right 3 years ago. Moving cannabis to Schedule III is, by definition, the federal government finally admitting the plant has medical value and legalizing it medically. It's the first time they've ever recognized the therapeutic use of cannabis, and for tens of millions of Americans across the country, using it as medicine, that feels like a big deal. Validation after decades of being treated like criminals. Legally, it also may turn out to be a big deal. But the people pushing this narrative paint a really rosy picture about it. They talk about reducing stigma and about a new golden age of medical research because universities won't be so terrified of losing their federal funding anymore, and maybe the DEA will actually approve the studies. It could lead perhaps to new FDA-approved medicines. And then there's the one that have all the business owners listening, tax relief. We'll get to that in a minute. But they're selling it as a lifeline for the entire cannabis industry, a win for science, patients, and small businesses. It sounds pretty good, right? Almost too good to be true. And you know what they say about those things. It's a trap. Let's go to the counter narrative. Just as fast as the party started, the skeptics started coming out of the woodwork, yelling that this isn't a win, this is a Trojan horse, and their argument, it has a point, and it's pretty terrifying if you've been investing your life savings into a state legal dispensary. Their whole fear comes down to this. What is Schedule III? It's a category for prescription drugs. We're talking like ketamine or Tylenol, codeine, anabolic steroids. Not stuff you buy from your local bud tender, stuff that you get with a prescription from a DEA-registered doctor and pick up at the pharmacy. So the critics are asking the million-dollar question, what happens to the thousands of state legal dispensaries where cannabis is suddenly federally recognized as a prescription drug? Do they all become illegal pharmacies overnight? This narrative says it's like escaping a lion, the Department of Justice, the DEA kicking down your door, only to be led into a cage full of snakes, the FDA slowly regulating you to death. Of course, that omits that the FDA has never granted prescription drug status to cannabis. Only legal weed won't be something that you can get that's Schedule III. It will be a Schedule III drug that's not FDA approved. So the craft grower in Oregon, the social equity shops in Illinois, they're all left out in the cold on this. The rescheduling doesn't create FDA-approved marijuana. So it's not a hostile takeover by Big Pharma. It isn't. It's just how the law might be screwing you a little different because the FDA approval is not there, so you can't use it legally. So this rescheduling only solves part of the problem. Here's why both sides are wrong. This isn't a win for the little guy or a Big Pharma-backed scam. It's pretty much like everything else in law and politics. It's way more complicated and a hell of a lot less dramatic. Both the biggest hopes and the biggest fears are completely overblown. This move is not the final victory, and it's not the nail in the coffin. It's a bureaucratic shuffle that changes a few important things while leaving the biggest problems in place Congress to deal with. And they have not done jack frickin' squat for the past 55 years, except for make the laws harsher. With Schedule III marijuana, though, they have a real chance to set up regulations instead of prohibition for the first time ever to fix the problem of Schedule III marijuana that's not an FDA-approved drug. Now let's break down the real impacts. The single biggest change of Schedule III marijuana is symbolic, but it's pretty powerful. For the first time, federal law will recognize cannabis as a medicinal plant. This is a landmark shift that could have cascade effects. In over half of our states, trigger laws could automatically update their own cannabis rules in response to the federal change. In some restrictive states, this may even open the door to new medical marijuana programs. This nationwide acknowledgement chips away at the decades of stigma. Now, we did a video on trigger laws, and I'll have that at the end screen for you to watch. The second huge impact is on the industry itself, specifically on taxes. It's a nasty piece of the tax code called Section 280E. Right now, because cannabis is a Schedule I or Schedule II substance, businesses are barred from taking normal deductions like rent and payroll. They pay their taxes on almost every dollar that comes in, with tax rates hitting 70% or more. Moving to Schedule III would kill 280E for cannabis. The second that becomes final, cannabis businesses operate like any other normal business. This is a massive game-changing financial lifeline, and many of the companies may become profitable overnight. Third, and this is crucial, the entire state legal industry is still not compliant with the Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act, or the FDCA. For Schedule III drugs to be legal, it needs to be FDA approved and prescribed. The flowers and vapes and edibles at your local dispensary, they don't have that. So what doesn't change? The fundamental conflict between state and federal law will remain the same. But hey, technically that's how it is for the hemp industry, and we see how freewheeling that is. Next, moving to Schedule III does not make your dispensary federally legal, not even close. It will be a little bit less illegal because now you're dealing in a Schedule III substance out of compliance with the FDCA. So maybe instead of the DEA kicking down your door, you'll get a letter from the FDA. Next, shipping weed across state lines remains probably a federal crime. This patchwork of state-by-state markets isn't going anywhere unless Congress does something. Finally, banking isn't magically fixed. Without Congress passing something like safer banking, which has been stuck for years and still hasn't been introduced as at the time that I'm recording this on August 12th of 25, most banks will stay on the sidelines, just like 92% of them are, because under federal law, money from the cannabis sales is still considered the proceeds of illegal activity. This triggers strict anti-money laundering rules and criminal liability under the Bank Secrecy Act, also known as the BSA, and then the anti-money laundering, that's AML. You might see those if you're in the industry. So you see the reality here. That means it's time for a break from a product that you can find over at CannabisIndustryLawyer.com. My firm's cannabis law blog. It's something we use with our business. And if your business reaches out to us, you'll come into contact with GHL, a tool that I love. It is a suite of online marketing tools that can really help the entrepreneurs tuning into this program. I'll put a pinned comment down so you can check out their awesome offerings of an AI chatbot, call centers, emails. It's a full-on CRM with automations. You can even put your contracts and take payments. It really has it all. And thanks to GHL for its affiliate program, so we can help spread the word on it. Now, back to why you came here. What's the real game? It's political theater. Hey, if rescheduling doesn't make weed really legal, and it doesn't fix banking, and it doesn't allow for a national market, and it only kind of sort of helps research and the tax burdens that the license holders face, what's the point? Why are politicians taking a victory lap? Why is the MSOS up 30%? Mostly political theater, that's it. And markets are irrational. This move lets politicians claim they did something big on cannabis with actually not having to do the real hard work of passing a law. That is something that has to be done through congressional action and not executive action. It's the difference between patching the leaky roof with duct tape versus actually hiring a contractor to get a new roof. The Trump administration can steal an issue from the Democrats, kicking the football back to Congress to fill in the regulations required to make legal medical marijuana a federal reality. To reiterate, actually fixing this requires Congress to pass a law to make a lane for licensed business operations. It means building a federal framework for licensing and safety. That's the hard work. Schedule III marijuana forces Congress to take a real stand, hopefully. We'll see. This administrative rescheduling is supposed to be the easy way out. And even though it has gotten politically sticky or very complex issue, as Donald Trump described it, the administrative law judge overseeing the process retired, for example, leaving the entire process in legal limbo. Now, of course, that law judge's decision would have gone to the new DEA administrator's head, which is Terry Cole, and I'm assuming that he will do whatever Trump tells him to do, or he'll be fired, as the president got famous for saying. That implies that Trump is going to do something that is part of his 80-20 strategy, like 90% of Americans support medical marijuana. So rescheduling is a way for the White House to make it look like it's making real progress on the problem. Still, it's not. It's mostly untouched and for Congress to fix. It's a largely symbolic gesture designed to keep you quiet while maintaining the same broken status quo. This isn't a win, it's not a scam, it's politics. To sum up, the win story ignores the fact that federal illegality will still haunt the industry. The scam story overestimates the federal government's desire or ability to just take over the state markets with big pharma. And the real takeaway is this: the fight is not over. This is not the end of prohibition. The day after this rescheduling, if it ever happens, it will still be federally illegal to do what these state licensed businesses do every single day. The only path to a sane, safe, and truly legal medical cannabis market goes through Congress. Until they act and truly change the legislation, everything else is just noise and political theater. Thanks for watching. If this helped you cut through the BS on cannabis reform, do us a favor and hit that like button and help us get to over 100,000 subscribers, and share this with somebody who needs to see what's really going on. Now, check out this video on trigger laws for more detail on this issue.